Moorhead. Coach, could you introduce your players and start with an opening statement?
Absolutely. To my left, we've got running back Travis Dye, quarterback Anthony Brown, offensive lineman Stephen Jones, and offensive lineman Alex Forsyth. We're very excited to be participating in the Alamo Bowl. A great reward for a fantastic season by our young men, and the opportunity to, reach that 11-win plateau is something that it's very hard to do in college football. And we've had a good couple weeks of preparation at school. Started off with a great day today, and like I said, we were playing a great, storied program like Oklahoma. It's an unbelievable opportunity, and I know our guys are excited.
Awesome. Questions, raise hand, front, center, please.
Joe, now that you've disclosed what transpired there the morning of the Stanford game,
Yeah.
I realize this will be a multi-parter, but walk us through what actually happens. Were you experiencing stomach pain of some kind for a couple of days? Did this literally just wake you up? And in terms of just the chronology, the timeline of how fast are you there, and how quick are you going under the knife, and you're calling Jen, and how quick are these guys learning of what's actually happening that day?
Yeah, I have a pregame ritual that I go through every night on Fridays, just going through the calls and making sure everything's on point for the next day. And around probably 10 or 11 that night, I started experiencing a little bit of stomach pain and thought it was just that, and tried to lay down and go to bed and relax, and it went away a little bit. And I woke up the next morning, to get ready for our staff meeting. Would have been around 6 or 6:30, and it was just absolutely debilitating. Could barely move. Hopped in the shower, got dressed, and went down to see Chief and Doc Davidson in our training room, and they, did some tests, just kind of poking and prodding around, and sent me to the ER. Checked in, and they were hoping that they could do something to alleviate the pain and get me to the stadium to call the game. And then they took me back for a CT scan, and that was definitely not going to be the case. So it went from hoping to get me back at the game to we're going to get you back for surgery in like 45 minutes. And they took me through the three things that it could be, and none of them were good. So, called my wife, called my family, went back. I think the surgery lasted around 6 to 8 hours. And then next thing I know, woke up in the recovery room.
Hey, Joe, when you're turning on the tape of Oklahoma, 4 of their front 7 opted out. What's that process been like trying to prepare for the guys who are going to step in across the front 7?
Yeah, I think with the combination of opt-outs and guys entering the portal, I think there'll be some different faces in there. But at the end of the day, these are all young men who were recruited by the University of Oklahoma, and the roster is filled with 4- and 5-star guys. So just like us, I'm sure they espouse a next man in mentality. So, we have the depth chart. We have guys that we're anticipating that we're going to see. But at the end of the day, they're still going to be running their defense. And the things they do present an incredible challenge for us offensively.
Back row. Actually, on the end. Sorry.
Yeah, Joe, just your thoughts on facing Oklahoma and the challenges they present and the preparation for this game.
Yeah, they and I'm sure these guys can talk a little bit more in depth, relative to the different levels of the defense. But they play a mix of 3- and 4-down fronts. They basically stem every play. There's a ton of post-snap movement by the front floor. They do a great job with their pressures, and they mix up the coverages. Play some zone, some man, and then some combination coverages. So between those three things, the pre-snap movement, the post-snap, stunts and line games from the front, and then the mixture of coverages, they make it a very challenging team for which to prepare.
Back and then front.
Joe, just wanted to ask you again, just this game, how unique is it when you look at both coaching staffs, new interim coaches with Coach Stoops, and what's going on with the coaching staffs? And then also a second part, do you have a prior relationship at all with Bob Stoops?
You're asking about how the unique aspect of there being 2 interim staffs?
Yeah, it's kind of a 2-part question.
Yeah, it's the first time I've gone through it, so it's a new experience for me. And Coach McClendon has done a phenomenal job in the interim head coach capacity. getting the team rallied, having a great plan, and I think the kids have responded phenomenally well to his leadership. So speaking on our end, I think it's been a relatively seamless transition because I think, Brian's done a great job, and he's done it before at Georgia. Actually, I think it was the Tax Layer Bowl when I was heading into Penn State. I went as an observer, but not as a participant. So I know, Coach McClendon's done a great job there. And did you ask, I know Coach Stoops?
Yes, just wondering if you had a prior relationship at all with Coach Stoops?
He was the head coach of Oklahoma when we played them in the Fiesta Bowl when I was at UConn. So I've spoken to Coach a few times on the phone, but I'm not particularly close with him. I know the Kentucky head coach much better.
Just following up from earlier, Joe, in that 45-minute or so span, because you're obviously not thinking something of that seriousness, what are you thinking? Because you're calling family who's back in Eugene, and I'm sure Jen's hopping on the fastest plane available, but you're going under the knife for something serious that's not good. What are you thinking? And for Anthony, because you're closest with him, when you learned that night, the next day, what had transpired and what Coach had, what were you thinking?
Well, I'm 48 and I had never spent a night or a day in the hospital in my life. So, not to sound morbid, but I was wondering if I was going to die. You hear about the things that would happen, kind of what the complications can be, and then you worry about going under anesthetic, and you worry about the entire procedure. So, you're questioning your own health at that point. So, and I know that the doctors there did a phenomenal job, and I came out of it no worse for the wear. But but at that point, you're hoping you're going to wake up when the surgery ends, and you don't have a chance to talk to your family or your wife or your kids. That was the part to me that was the most troubling, that it happened so quickly, and I wasn't able to talk to my wife, my kids, or my parents or brother or sister.
I would say just like with the entirety of the day, it was kind of hard because didn't get to hear anything from Coach Moorhead either that night or even the next day. His wife texted us, but just like you said, I'm one of the closest with him. It was hard not hearing from him. Didn't know if he was okay. Hearing it from other people was one thing, but not being able to hear it from him was different, and it was tough to say the least.
Thank you, Anthony. Up front.
One for both Steven and Alex, if you could address. The middle of the season, it felt like the offensive line lineup was changing every single week. You've had some continuity now the last, say, month of the season. Just for both of you guys, just how do you guys feel as a unit right now? How are you communicating? What kind of confidence are you guys playing together?
Yeah, I think right now, this is the closest we've been the whole season. Like you said, we had a lot of, moving parts to that offensive line. I know I went down and we had some other guys kind of dinged up there. So, guys that have stepped up. And I think that just made our whole unit, our whole room better just because it forced guys to step out of their comfort zone, and really step up. So I think the group that we're going to send out there on Wednesday is going to, do a great job and, ready for the challenge.
Thank you, Alex. Steven?
Same thing he said. I think we're all ready for the challenge that's coming up. Like middle of the season when the rotation started happening, it didn't really affect us that much because Mirabal has been training us since January on how to play multiple positions just in case someone did go down. So as soon as he went down, next man up mentality, and whoever that was, they stepped in and did their job. So.
Thank you. Question back.
Yeah, Travis, just your thoughts on the whole year for you individually. I know all you care about is winning, but you've had a huge year yourself individually. Just your thoughts on your season, your progress and growth, and just what it would mean to have another big game this end of the year for this team.
It was nice that, guys looked at me to step up after, CJ went down, and it was just nice to, put in the work and the results come out like the way you want it to, like any running back wants it to. But like you said, all I care about is winning, and the rest of the stuff will come,
Back left first, then front.
Hey, Anthony, just what have you seen out of the Oklahoma secondary when you started to break them down?
Very physical, talented. They play through the ball, and very instinctive. They've made some plays I would say where sometimes they take a lot of risk, which can be a good and a bad thing, but they've been good with it all year. Other than that, I just feel like we just have to step up to the challenge because they are talented, like I said.
Front.
Travis, first, congratulations. Walk us through Wednesday night, and why was that the right time? And was it a giveaway that you were wearing jeans since you so hate wearing jeans?
Yeah, she had no clue, but 23 has always been a special number for both of us. So it was just nice to do it on the 23rd, close to Christmas. I had a nice setup for her and right when she got into the house, and it was just a nice moment. I was very, very nervous, and it was difficult to do, but it felt like a weight lifted off my shoulder after I did it. I'm glad she said yes.
Question back.
Question for Alex and Steven, just your thoughts on Jackson as a defensive lineman. What do you guys see out of him?
Jackson's done a great job. The definition of a football player is Jackson Powers Johnson. He loves to play the game. When you throw him out there, he's going to be physical. He's going to get after it, and that's just what he's done in practice. So I know he's going to, go out there and do exactly what he does during practice, which is play with, incredible effort and intensity. So it'll be fun to watch him.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex.
Like you said, Jackson plays with a lot of passion for the sport. So I feel like when he had to go over to defense, it wasn't that big of a deal with him because he just wants to get on the field and play because that's what he loves to do. So he's a great kid. It's nice seeing him on defense. He gives us a really good look whenever we go against him. So I'm excited to see what he does this week.
Thank you, Steven. Back left.
Anthony, as a quarterback, how much do you study other quarterbacks? And if so, can you just give me some thoughts on Caleb Williams at Oklahoma?
I've actually been able to watch him a lot this year because we had a lot of late games. Caleb Williams is a very talented quarterback. I feel like he's going to end up being one of the best quarterbacks in the country by the time he leaves college. And very fluid thrower, makes some crazy instinctive plays. And just as young as he is, it's very impressive. And I feel like he's a special talent in the country.
Stephen, we've asked a lot of these guys about what their future plans are. Have you decided what you're going to do for next season, and are you enrolled in class for, I guess that's Monday?
Yeah, as of right now, I'm ready to come back for one more season, get after it with my O-line brothers. So I'm excited.
Back.
Coach, just want to ask another Caleb Williams question, if you don't mind. Just being such a young quarterback, just your thoughts as a coordinator and just what he's able to do and really kind of absorb the game as quick as he has.
Yeah, we recruited Caleb, coming out of high school down in D.C. So he's a guy. I think he won the Elite 11, and did a lot as a high school player. But when he was given his opportunity, you can see he's very well coached. He plays in an excellent scheme, and he makes plays by design or improvisation. So I think that's the biggest thing, that when he's playing within the the construct of their scheme and throwing on time and on rhythm and going through his progressions, you can see him affect the game in that manner. But I think he's just as dangerous when the play breaks down and he escapes the pocket and they start to scramble and guys pop open, or the design run plays. So, in this day and age of the quote unquote dual threat quarterback, he is truly a guy that can beat you with his arm first and foremost, and with his legs as well.
Well, Alex, you were just nodding there. You said you're going to give you guys recruiting, pitches this week, but between knowing you're back, Salah's back, Steven's back, I won't let you speak for Ryan, but I think we understand where he's probably leaning as well. What does that mean to you as a guy who we've heard from more than probably anyone on the offense this season, that basically the whole line is back other than George, because sooner or later he actually has to leave.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. There'd be some issues if George would ended up coming back for an 8th year. So no, we're really excited to have all the guys back. Like I said earlier, I'm going to give my best recruiting pitch to Ryan and TJ to come back. But now that we got Steve, me, and Sala back, we got a good core group of guys. So I'm excited to get after it again next year after we take care of business this week.
Question on the left.
Hey, this is for Steven and Alex. We were talking to Oklahoma's defensive coordinator, and he said that you guys are probably the best unit that they've seen all year long. Going the other way, just what do you see out of Oklahoma? Where do you think they stack up with some of the defenses you've played this year?
Yeah. I mean, they've got a really, really talented front seven. Like Coach Moorhead was just talking about, they're loaded with 4- and 5-star guys. There's a reason Oklahoma is always one of the best in the country. So I think for us, they do a lot of movement, a lot of stemming, but they also just have great players. And a lot of the time, when you play teams that like to move, they get out of gaps and they can kind of get out of sorts there. But this team, you watch it and they hit their gaps. So the front seven is as good as anybody in the country from this Oklahoma front. Even though I know they had a few guys opt out, but even with that, they got some guys that haven't played a whole lot yet that are gonna play a lot when those guys opted out and decided to leave. So they got a lot of talent. So it'll be a great challenge for us.
Like you said, they're a really good defensive front. Even though they did have some guys opt out, we don't think that there's any drop off in competitiveness or player. So I think it's going to be a really good challenge coming up this week. They move around a lot. They're very physical, very active, fly to the ball. So I'm excited.
Thank you, Alex and Steven. Front row.
AB, to be real here for a moment, how do you kind of encapsulate and sum up your season, man? By everything, by the things that were going on off the field that haven't necessarily gotten out there, but a lot of family have started to spoke to just what happened. We know what happened in stadium and those things, but when you're like the number 10 rushing quarterback in the country and you're a 10-win team, and there's a lot of success, but you faced as much criticism as any quarterback in the country. How do you sum up this year for you?
I would say, looking back at it, the criticism makes the season seem a lot more worse than it is. Like you said, we're a 10-win team, which is very hard to do in college football. Played in the Pac-12 championship, in top 10 in rushing and quarterbacks. I would say just the voices alone make it sound worse than it is. Watching the film, studying myself, I would say just it's never as bad as it seems and it's never as good as it seems. It wasn't as bad as people would say, and it made me feel that way for a while until I actually just paid attention to it, paid attention to what actually mattered. Hell of a ride. I wouldn't have changed it. I wish it was a dream. I wish it was perfect, but life isn't perfect. So with everything from off the field to on the field to in the stadium, whatever the case may be, I wouldn't change it because I know down the road it's going to be better for me.
Yeah, to follow on that, AB, who did you reach out to when the more serious stuff off the field was happening? Because it's one thing to lean on coach or Cristobal or Moorhead about certain things on the field, or Quincy about even some things on the field. But I'm talking about more the off the field, the threats. When those were happening, who do you reach out to? Who do you lean on? And I'll ask for Alex in particular and Travis also to just speak to when you know what he's experiencing. And obviously you were close with Tyler. And again, but being real, guys, you went through the past 2 years, and this program and every Pac-12 program had everything with COVID going on worse than Oklahoma or other places had to deal with. And you know what he's experiencing. But first, for Anthony, who do you reach out to and how you guys react with this who've been in the program for as long as you have?
I reached out to my parents, my dad, my mom. a few of my cousins, a couple of my uncles, and just really it was really my family and some of my teammates. Because those are the people that are one here, and my family at home are the people that understand me the most. So just being able to lean on them was very important for me. And without them, I wouldn't have kept going. So.
Yeah, I think, in the age of social media, we got a lot of keyboard warriors that love to just talk on Twitter and Instagram, but in reality, they wouldn't say anything to any of our faces. So I think at the end of the day, it just goes back to, who's the man in the arena. I think there's a lot of armchair quarterbacks out there that, love to pick at, what AB's done. And, he's a quarterback that took us up into Columbus, and did something that's really never, well, I mean, it's been done there, but it very rarely happens. He led us to a Pac-12 championship. And I know he knows how I feel, but, I'll go to war with him every day and any day of the week because I know he's got my back and I have his back. And I know that's how every single person on our team feels. So I think for us, it's just cutting out the outside noise. We know anybody who's tweeting about it can't do it better, so their opinion really doesn't matter.
Thank you, Alex.
I always try to let him know that, he's my quarterback and there's nobody else I would rather be out there, period. And that's just, like Alex said, you got a lot of keyboard warriors out there and they really don't know what they're talking about. Playing quarterback is a very hard position and you're going to make mistakes, but I would 100% want AB out there battling for us than anybody else.
Thank you, Travis. We'll go back.
Joe, a lot of teams talk about culture. Just the last couple weeks and everything that's gone on outside of the football field, how would you describe how the culture of this team has been able to keep things going?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways in this profession, the change is inevitable, and I think you just have to consistently remind yourself that it's about the players. And I think that we've got tremendous leadership on this team, and the guys are incredibly tight and play for one another. And you look at the practices we've had and the camaraderie of the bowl and the things that these guys have done, not throughout the season, but in particular the last couple of weeks. I think it speaks volume to their character, to their belief in one another, to their resolve and their resiliency. Because change is hard, it's difficult, in any aspect of life. But, I think the credit goes to these young men because they've stuck together and they found a way to keep moving forward.
Thank you, Coach. Back corner. Last two questions.
Hey, Alex, I wanted to ask you, Coach Odom, the defensive coordinator of Oklahoma, said this game could come down to who wants it more. These are two programs that had really high expectations in September. Would you agree with that statement that it's coming down to who wants to finish their season the best way and who's going to fight through this week in this game?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's, one of the universal truths in every single game you're going to play in football is it comes down to, who really wants it, who has more on the line. And I think the more you invest, the more you have to play for. And I've always believed in that. So, whoever's prepared the best and going to go show out on Wednesday is who's going to want it more because they got more on the line.
Question.
For Joe, also on what I was asking AB about and these guys about, how do you sum up his season, but knowing what he was going through off the field? Because you went through, not just the stuff this year, Joe, but you went through Mississippi State.
Yeah.
And you've been through where players can be criticized. You were criticized. You were combative at Mississippi State.
Yeah.
But you're getting paid. And there's a difference there. How do you sum up his season, and how do you respond to the criticism that, like I said, this isn't just criticism. This is way over the top sort of thing.
Yeah, I think there's an old adage it says if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And, there is a aspect of what occurs to players and coaches, whether it's realized or not, that, it hurts you. I mean, and there's spots deep down in your soul where, You know, it's hard to stomach and fathom some of that stuff and to overcome it. And you need to be strong in your belief and your resolve as either a coach or a player, and continue to press forward because you know, it's tough. But just going back to Anthony, I mean, you look at the 12 years that he's been in college, it's by far his best statistical season. You know, he's completed almost 65% of his passes, closing in on 3,000 yards. I think a 3 or 4 to 1 touchdown interception ratio, and you know how well he's run the ball. Not many quarterbacks in the country have led a team to a 10-win, and you know, hopefully if we do well, an 11-win season, a win in Columbus, and an appearance in a Pac-12 championship game. So, you know, some of it is subjective and some of it's objective. And when you look at the objective aspect of it, and you take away that subjectivity, Anthony's had a phenomenal season. And we talked about it very early on that he and I and everyone who's played the position, you consciously made a decision to play the most scrutinized position in all of organized sports, you know, good, bad, or indifferent. And you know, it's a different microscope of which you're under, and whether a running back fumbles or an O-lineman misses a block or a receiver drops a pass or a D-lineman gets knocked 10 yards off the ball or you miss a tackle or a DB gets run by, you know, there weren't calls for other people to be replaced. But, you know, that's the nature of the world that we live in as coaches and quarterbacks. So I would make the argument that we're not in a position to be where we are or do what we did this season without Anthony Brown rather than the alternative. I'm proud to have been his coach.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, players.